What is a geometric system? To describe and understand the 2- and 3-dimensional world we all live in, mathematicians have developed several different geometric systems. A system can be defined as an interdependent group of items forming a unified whole. Learners in the intermediate phase are introduced to the basic aspects of 4 geometric systems, namely topological geometry, Euclidean geometry, coordinate geometry, transformational geometry. What is topological geometry? Topological geometry describes how objects in space relate to each other. Shapes in topological geometry are not rigid or fixed and can be altered to assume a new configuration. For example, a square can be stretched to the shape of a rectangle, an oval, or another closed figure. Learners should be given many activities, puzzles, and games that involve topological challenges. Drawing figures without lifting the pencil or describing routes on a map are examples of topological activities that will develop your learners' spatial sense and problem-solving skills. What is Euclidean geometry? This system is the geometry of shapes and objects in our 2- and 3-dimensional world. Euclidean geometry is named after the Greek mathematician Euclid, who organized all the known geometry of his time into a series of assumed facts or postulates and provable statements or theorems. Learners are introduced to the characteristics of objects, points and lines, circles and spheres, triangles and pyramids, squares and cubes, rectangles and prisms, and many other shapes and solids. These characteristics and the relationships between them are organized into simple rule systems. When teaching Euclidean geometry, please remember that the abstract nature of geometric elements, such as points, lines, line segments, and rays, makes them very difficult for many of our learners to understand fully. We must first introduce our learners to geometric shapes and their attributes before teaching them about these geometric elements. What is coordinate geometry? The coordinate grid is the mathematical contribution of René Descartes and forms the basis for coordinate geometry. It is said that he first got the idea of coordinate geometry while lying in bed one morning trying to describe the path of a fly crawling across his bedroom ceiling. Coordinate geometry introduces our learners to a grid system on a 2- or 3-dimensional space and has many uses. For example, the grid system on a city map shows us exactly where a particular building is located within the grid. The more complex grid system used by air traffic controllers allows them to locate and give information to landing and departing aeroplanes. What is transformational geometry? Transformational geometry focuses on how shapes and objects appear as they are moved about in space. As the objects and shapes are moved by translating or sliding, rotating or turning, and reflecting or flipping, they can be combined in many different ways. Although the orientation changes, the shapes and their fundamental characteristics remain the same. Transformations are an integral part of working with tangram pieces. It is claimed that the first tangram came about when an emperor in ancient China accidentally dropped a square tile and it broke into 7 pieces. While trying to fix the tile, he found that he could assemble the pieces to form many shapes besides the original square tile. When studying these systems, remember that, although they are interrelated, Each system has a different set of rules and vocabulary. Introduce the systems informally in your classroom through interesting activities and materials. It is very important that you always use a hands-on approach when teaching geometry. Give your learners the opportunity to identify examples of points, lines, angles, and planes in their own environment. Allow them to participate in as many activities as possible where they can make, take apart, and manipulate both planes and solid shapes.